Hi, everyone. This is Katerina Ranieri with the Hilton Head Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's interview is going to be with Becky Holbert. Becky just started a new podcast called Money Touches Everything. And Becky, would you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your new venture?
Yes, thanks. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Becky Holbert, and I work for a small boutique firm out of Savannah, Jaja Financial Group. And I'm a financial strategist and the newest host of Money Touches Everything. My passion is helping people to understand the way money truly shows up in every part of our lives, with their family, their business, their community, and their future. And I blend practical financial education with a holistic, mindset focused approach because financial literacy is a form of self care. And my goal is simple. I want to give people the clarity and confidence that they need to make better decisions and build long term stability. And thank you guys for having me tonight.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. So tell us about the title. Why Money Touches Everything? What was the purpose of that title? What was your thinking there?
Well, I started Money Touches Everything because I kept seeing how many smart and capable people were never actually taught how money works. It wasn't a knowledge problem, it was an education gap. So people often think that they're bad with money. That was my life journey at the time. But the truth is, they were just never given the education. And I've always believed that money is emotional before it's mathematical. Once I understood how much shame people carry around money, I wanted to build a space where we could talk about it openly and without fear. The name came from something that I say all the time, actually, sitting with some friends around a dinner table one night. And it just came out, and I said, Money touches everything. It's not just the title, it's the truth. And it shapes every decision, every opportunity, every stress point, and every dream. So the podcast gives me a way to break down the things that people deal with every single day, but no one explains. College costs, debt, protection, retirement, community economics, all of it. So that's how I came up with it.
That's fantastic. I love to hear about that. Um, you mentioned financial literacy. What are you finding out there about people's financial literacy, as their baseline right now? And where does this podcast get them to?
Well, I find that especially within the holistic community, because I'm extremely holistic minded in everything. And holistic practitioners are incredibly heart led, but they're often financially underserved. So when they're understanding their numbers, everything changes. Cash flow becomes clarity, pricing becomes confidence. And I always say, you can't pour from an empty cup financially either. So financial literacy gives them that stability, the boundaries, and the ability to build long term sustainable practice. Many practitioners underprice themselves, not because of a lack of skill, but because of their mindset, their hearts. That's why another one of my favorite lines is your pricing isn't just numbers, it's boundaries. So once they understand their money, they stop operating from a survival mode and start building businesses that truly align with who they are.
Now, you just mentioned the word boundary. Can you
Mhm.
explain what you mean in that context?
Well, much in the same way that we talk in a holistic mind, we're talking about the boundaries. You set boundaries with the people, you set it with your emotions, you set it with in your marriage. There's just the path that you want to stay within. So when you when you don't look at your pricing as when you don't look at it as boundaries, basically people are just looking at it as a jumping off point. That negotiation can creep in, and because we're so heart centered, I speak from experience because I know that sometimes I don't charge for my services. I never do. I don't believe in that. But when you have massage therapists out there that may be living in a community where they want people to understand the benefits that they give, the health benefits, the stress, the emotional benefits of it, sometimes people aren't able to pay what they need, that sliding scale, and it's very easy for a heart-centered person to adjust accordingly. But if you're not setting those price boundaries to say, look, maybe we can do something different, but setting those prices as boundaries really helps to focus in that this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm able to build that healthy foundation that every business owner needs.
Fantastic. Um, and you also mentioned on your podcast, what topics do you plan to cover in your podcast that you haven't already mentioned, or ideas that are different from what we hear from day to day?
Well, a podcast usually exists on pillars. There's, the pillars of what you're going to be basing it on. So what I did was my podcast, we break down complex financial topics into tools that people can actually use. And that's especially important for holistic entrepreneurs. One of the sayings that I always fall back on is clarity is the most underrated financial tool people have. And when you're able to get that clarity on a subject that you don't know about, and most people, they find maybe they do want to know, but it still enables them to say, look, I know a little bit, I know enough to make the decisions, but I still need somebody to help. That's where the resource comes in.
Can you give
So
us, oh, go ahead.
no, it's okay. So some of the helpful topics that I cover, that I'll be covering on this, is about foundational money systems, how to compare a high yield savings account to a CD, debt elimination strategies, which is huge for business owners, student loan understanding because of the family that is involved, how tax free retirement strategies work, living benefits, life insurance. And my newest one that I'm loving is I have this community wealth and design series, which is going to help people understand how local decisions impact their wallet, basically their town government development infrastructure. And I'm also looking into a series to do that is going to help homeschooling parents. I want to build this kid friendly podcast episodes that'll be kind of an additional series so that parents have a tool that they can use with the homeschooling network. It's a holistic practice that's definitely growing in not just a strategy, but in a thought process. And a lot of people are doing it. So I'm excited about that. And because it all comes down to one of my favorite things that I get from this business is when people tell me, I finally understand this. And that's why I do it. My job is simple. I make money less scary and more strategic.
Very nice. Can you tell us a little bit more about the homeschooling project? Is there anything else you can share with us about that?
Well, I'm still kind of developing it because I'm still recording my regular podcast episodes. But I got the idea because I read a lot of self-help, self-care, self-improvement, and there's a lot of financial literacy books out there. A lot of great insight. What people gravitate to. And I noticed when I was reviewing the books that I saw a lot in kids. And I have been extremely interested and focused on education. And when I see the current school systems and how little they're preparing our kids for a survival based life, to know how to navigate, and student loans, and I mean, we're putting our kids in debt, but they're coming out of school at 22 in debt. So educating at a young age is very important. And when I saw these books, I'm like, why aren't I just using them as kind of a primer and doing a podcast episode geared towards children? I feel very close to my dad because he was a teacher, and I think he had always wished that I was going to go into teaching education. So I'm kind of honoring him later in going into this field by really focusing on the education piece. And I want to be helpful in my community. I want to help them to grow better and to help parents out. They need help these days.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should just mention, you mentioned the housing situation. I just read a statistic that home ownership used to be, first home was at 30 years of age. Now it's at 40 years of age.
It's crazy. It's
What's going
crazy. And
on?
that's definitely something that I'll be talking a lot about too, is business. This is how we bring in, I think the holistic community has so much to offer and to give. We're a small segment. We're often misunderstood. And I think that the holistic chamber is a place where we can really bring that into the mainstream. I know it's not a popular thought process, but we do have, members of the administration, the current administration, that truly believe in holistic health. And it's like money, it touches everything we do. And if we start thinking holistically and doing holistically, people aren't going to think it's this kind of mystical thing anymore. This is just real life, and it's about caring for one's family, self, and community.
Can you give us an example of a family or a person you may have helped who sort of had that intrepidation and fear around money and how they came out of it with your guidance?
Yeah, I I tend to kind of gravitate towards women. I'm a single woman at 60 years old. I've always had to rely on myself, and I wasn't always as strong in financial literacy myself. So, coming out of that, I tend to work with a lot of women because it's a tough topic, but a lot of women stay in bad situations because of financial means. And it's just straight facts. So my success stories come from women who are divorcing, or maybe they've never been in a partnership and they are a single parent, and teaching them, giving them tools, sitting down with them and listening to them to see what their issues are, where they're struggling. And I realized that I was talking about financial planning a lot, but I was missing a key component, which was working on debt elimination and understanding when you acquire debt, how are you going to pay that down? Because interest, the way interest is structured, it's for the bank's benefit. That's how they make their money. And it saddens me to know that banks are making money off of your money and you're not. So it's really sitting down and listening to what they're spending their money on, and then talking about the mindset and their relationship with it. And the first time I sat with a mom who was going through a divorce, and it was a struggle because you're dealing with trying to get what you need. And the truth is, the little bit you get needs to be put very strategically. And I saw the path. I saw the lights go on. I saw her respond. And in that response, I didn't just see me helping somebody. What I saw was somebody helping themselves. I saw a woman taking that learning and giving her confidence and building herself back up. And I want every woman in this country to be financially independent. You can be in a healthy relationship and you're still not in control of your money. There's a lot of badass women business owners out there. What are they doing with their money? We're still sitting with them and they're still saying, well, my husband takes care of that. I want to give women the confidence. I believe it's the true women's right. We're talking about all the little stuff. Women need to have that financial independence, and they need to have the trust that there's somebody out there that isn't going to worry about what they're selling, but what they're giving them. And that's the success story that I love.
Well, having gone through a divorce myself and then having lost my second husband last year, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You know, that you don't want to have that insecurity feeling,
yeah.
and it's a
It's
challenge.
it it's exactly what I say. It's about empowerment, education, and stability that lasts. It's not pressure. It's money is emotional before it's mathematical. Mathematical. I always say that math is the language that everybody needs to know and nobody knows because we've attached feelings to it. And I want to be the person who says, I want to listen to your feelings. I want to hear how you feel about it because that's the first lesson that we have to. We have to get to the root of your relationship with money and how you feel about it. And then once we get past that, it's all math from there.
What are some of like the negative beliefs you hear from people about money?
The biggest one I hear is, believe it or not, people think they don't deserve it. They think that they're never going to be where somebody else is. And the truth is, rich people are only separated because they have more money. And it's the knowledge, it's the education they know, and they're not out there teaching it. They're out there making companies and selling it. But I want to teach people how money works. I want them to have a strong relationship with it, to not be afraid of it.
Mhm.
It can be a very scary subject, but if you know that you have somebody to go to, I kind of can paint a picture like this. You have a child he's out there in the front and he's learning how to ride his bike and he falls the first time and it's scary and it hurts. But there's somebody there to pick him up and say, it's okay. This is going to happen. But here's what you need to do. And that's what I want to be. I want to be the person who's able to pick you up from that fallen bike and say, it's okay. Everybody falls, but it's how you get back up and it's how you push yourself forward. And once you have the tools that the people who are making big money have, $20 or $2,000, it's going to grow.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's a foundation.
Very nice. Um, the podcast, going back to the podcast itself, I'm assuming you're going to address these issues we've been talking about anyways, about, housing being out of reach and women who find themselves in a situation where they feel scarcity. Um, I want to also shift over to the chamber members. Can you talk to us about how your podcast is going to help them in growing their businesses and building long-term wealth for themselves, for our members?
my mission, my mission in life, my little personal thing that I say is to empower chamber members with clarity, confidence, and tools. I think that every business person that is a member of the chamber should be looking at it in that way because a chamber is going to be as healthy and as strong as the members who are in it, engaging with your chamber, really having meaningful conversation, not to be afraid to walk into a room and know that everybody is there for business. Small business is the backbone of every community, everyone across this nation. And we need to be powerful in our own communities because nobody's coming in to do it for us. The translation of somebody else coming to do it for us is big corporations and they're buying up small businesses. But we're trying to protect the economic development. And I think chambers are a significant ally when
Mhm.
doing that. And with the holistic chamber, if I could galvanize everybody within the holistic community to just start standing up, going to your chamber meetings, engaging, finding ways that we can bring holistic thinking to the mainstream, affecting, because with the chamber, you can create the power to be heard. One voice is tough. One voice at a town council meeting is a whole lot different than one voice at a county meeting or at a state level meeting.
Mm.
But when you have the collective standing up and saying, we are interested in making changes. We need to be able to be thought of as mainstream. We deserve the right to be able to provide economically for our community. I think that's extremely important. And I feel like that when you give them the tools, when entrepreneurs understand their finances, they grow faster, they
Mm.
make better decisions, and
Mhm.
they build more resilient businesses. I want people to feel supported, never sold to, because education changes everything.
Yeah.
So that's how I think it helps.
Um, Talk about too, once people become financially, I think Erin's coming back in, I'll just admit her. Once people become financially literate, talk about the stress that's released and their new outlook in life, when they come out to the other side. Can you give us a description of the journey that you see people go through?
Oh, excuse me. Hold on. I'm so sorry. My pet sits decided to get a little crazy, so I didn't put earbuds in. So my apologies.
It's okay.
Um, so the journey is amazing because It's one of the reasons I went with the firm that I'm with. I've worked for a couple of different companies
Hmm.
and it wasn't authentic. It was appealing, it was selling product.
Mm.
And I'm not helping anybody if I'm just selling you something and then walking away. I can't tell you how many businesses I walk into today, and they've got retirement accounts in place, and the employees aren't taking advantage of them. And when I ask the business owners, why aren't they? They look at me and they say, well, we offer it. Well, the person who sold this to you, did they come in? Do they sit with the employees every year? Do they come in every 6 months? Do they try and make them understand why a 401k is important? And what I'm finding that journey is by educating people, you're giving them the opportunity to make better choices and decisions. I can tell you with 100% certainty when I sit down and talk to somebody, I'm listening to them. I'm asking them questions about their life. Where do they see themselves going? What kind of retirement do they see? What kind of business? Where do they want to be with their business? Do they have an exit strategy? And when you start giving people information, education, they start to feel more confident in the decisions they're making because the decisions should always be of the people who are investing their money. If you're spending your money, are you spending it or are you investing it? Like learning the language. So the journey is truly, you don't have to know everything I know. I don't want to do that. That's why I don't like to talk about product. It's about the concept. It's about sitting down with people and watching the lights go on when they realize, wow, I didn't know I could do this. Or I don't have to do this because my neighbor is doing it. I can do this because this is going to fit for me. Budgets, teaching people how to do that. Learning that people today, they're living paycheck to paycheck. And yet, sometimes you have to have hard conversations and say, with your budgeting, are you dealing with a need or are you dealing with a want?
Yeah.
And I use that to say it's not about the things. Do you need that coffee or do you want that coffee? It's not about that. You want this life. Do you need that peace? And navigating how to find $20 a week can make all the difference. So that's the journey. That's the journey that I want to see with every one of my clients. I want them to see what they can, where they can be, how they can get there.
Mhm.
And then they get to make the decision because they just have a little bit more knowledge. And hopefully they have me sitting in front of them or somebody that they trust that is not worrying about their survival.
I like the way you describe that. And do you find sometimes people get all this knowledge, but they won't execute on it? And how do you get them to execute when
It
you know what I mean?
well, sometimes it's a weight game. Sometimes because I never want to push anybody. I always, my mentor at work, I work with Jana. Some of you have met Jana. She's come into the chamber. But the owner of our brokerage firm, Tuba, he is an amazing individual. And one of the things that he says to agents coming on with us is, look, I'm never going to push you. What I want to do is give you the tools so that I can pull you. All you have to do is believe and grab onto the rope. And we're going to go gently. We're going to go as quickly as you want. We're going to go as slowly as you want. But it's about pulling people. I never want to push. And that's about as simple as I
That's
can.
nice. That's a very nice analogy.
Yeah, he's an amazing man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I found a group of people that believe in the authenticity of what we do.
Yes.
And I'll never be with anybody else. Jaja is my family. I'm sure I know tons of people out there. I meet them every day. They have great financial advisors. Some they don't, but it's about making sure that people have enough education that they can ask the questions. I think that's the biggest thing I find with some financial advisors. And it's not speaking ill of them, it's just speaking honestly. Some of them have a path and they have to stay on that path. That's the company says that. So when you're being dictated to, how much control do you feel you have? And when it comes to money, some people say, I don't want to worry about it, but you have to worry about it because sometimes people don't have your best interest at heart.
Mhm.
They want to believe that they do, but unless you get to make the decision, you get to say when. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel really strongly about that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
passionate about it. And
yeah,
that's everything you're bringing into this podcast.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
nice. Very
I,
nice.
I'm excited because it's not just about what 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 I can help with, what others can help me with,
Hmm.
but it also gives me an opportunity to give my fellow chamber members a platform to have discussions with me about different things while promoting their business. And we all know that small business owners sometimes don't have the marketing dollars to get that kind of advertising out there. And that's what I want to be able to provide too. It's a double-edged sword. Like I say, money touches everything. So the podcast is there not just so I can talk because I love to talk and to educate, but it's also to give other small business owners who I know are extremely well versed in their field, give them the opportunity to talk about a topic that's relevant to their business while showcasing who they are. That gives a very organic method of business owners to be able to communicate to the community. So often we have our networking like chambers where we all get together as business owners and we're talking about, collaborations and things like that. But are we reaching the community? And I think as a holistic community, we do need to reach out. And that's kind of the other side of the goodness of the podcast.
When does your podcast launch?
Well, I've been tough. It's a little scary to put all this stuff down and then and put it out there. But I am going to be launching this weekend. I've got a bank of things, and like I said, I've discovered that um, the dreamer in me has has kind of shifted into visionary, and
Very
it
nice.
excites me because I'm also learning. I'm still learning. I'm 60 years old, and the beauty of life is that we should never stop learning. I had a conversation with my two best girlfriends. They're just my soul sisters, and I'll never forget the day that Colleen said to me, you know, they should put us. But we spend all this time K through 12, and then secondary education, and then it stops at age 22, and then you hit 55 and there's a whole new world out there that we know nothing about. Our parents weren't teaching us. And that's something that I would love to resonate with the millennials, with the Gen Zers. Everybody's doing the blame game, but yet progress, solution oriented to me is stop complaining and just do better. Be the change. Start to teach your kids, talk to your parents, ask them what the process is they're going through. Aging is scary. A lot of people are drifting into unknowns, and they're the forgotten segment of our population. You turn 65, you go into a retirement community or retirement home, and everybody forgets about you. But the expenses, the money that has to come from that, the care, long term care, these are the subjects we need to talk about. These are mental health issues. And that's just another thing that this podcast can bring. I'm not looking to get big. I just want to be tuned into the community. And if I can inspire somebody in another community to do what I'm doing, we'll all have our own team of experts. And we don't have to worry about, oh, my guy's in Alabama. Let Alabama take care of Alabama. I'm all for diversity and stuff, but we really truly have to start sweeping up in our backyards. And I want to be a part of that push forward to start having the conversations. And I think there's a lot of business owners out there that are experts in their field, but because they're not famous, they're not well known, or they don't have the ability to have a platform to talk on. I want to give them that.
Wow. Thank you, Becky, so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm
I
gonna,
love this chamber.
I love your enthusiasm. I'm gonna open up for questions, so from anyone else who's here.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have some questions. First, I want to say thank you, Becky. And the other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about it was trust, trust with money. Like not we have to trust our money, but we have to trust the person who's helping us with our money.
Yes.
And it's a big deal when you're placing that trust in someone, and you really come across with such a big heart.
yes.
So I really want to thank you for everything that you pour into what you do and how you help people.
Well, thank you.
But getting back to the podcast, I want to ask you, where do you meet people for the podcast? Is it on Zoom? Is it going to be in a physical location? And how long are the segments that, generally speaking, that you're aiming for?
So I use an app, I'm giving a little plug here, Riverside, where it's online. So I'm able to send a link and they just pop into my studio.
Okay.
Because I'm still in grassroots, studio time can be pretty expensive. Hopefully, I can gain some traction and be able to do a studio. But I find it's part of that holistic approach again. People are busy, business owners are running businesses, families, the whole thing. So I find that giving that link and doing it online in a studio online is
Mhm.
very helpful. So that's how I'll be
Okay.
doing any of my interviews that way. Um, there was another part of that
Length
question.
of time, I mean, are you aiming for something 20
I,
minutes or
yeah,
30?
I want to try and keep most podcasts to a half an hour, 35 minutes.
Okay.
Some subjects need a little bit more, some may not need that much at all. It really depends. I've done interviews before with actually one of our members, Barry, when we talk about brain health.
Mhm.
I was fascinated and we hit an hour without even blinking.
Right.
But again, it's that authenticity that I want to come across. I don't want to bore people. I want to keep certain subjects short, sweet. We can do series. I may do something and say, look, if anybody has any questions, if you have a differing opinion, drop a comment, send me a message because I'll do another segment on it and I'll have that person on. I
Hmm.
want to grab people out of the keyboard warrior. I want to get them in the front. Let's talk. I've got no problem. I love to talk. I love to debate. So yeah.
I actually have
Awesome.
a question for you because you sort of, Karen, you tr sort of triggered it in me when you asked your questions. Some people like me, we might feel like we're too old to be having these conversations. What are your thoughts on that?
You're never too old.
Mhm.
I can tell you with because I'm a broker, I get to look at many different companies. And I can tell you that I've protected people. I've had people protect their retirements. That's the key. And I think that's what there's this myth out there that you hit 65 and you're in retirement and that's it. You can't do anything. And that's not true.
Hmm.
We want to try and get people, talking at 50, 45, 50, 55. But that's why when you're sitting with a financial solutions person or an advisor or a planner, I think it's important to make sure that that person is going to be sitting with you every 6 months. Life changes, the market changes. Though, I will tell you that, when the market starts going down, it's never the time to get out. But making sure, I believe when you hit retirement age, you go from a process of growth into income.
Hmm.
And when you're in income, that means that any dips in the market, any losses are going to affect how long that money is going to last.
Mhm.
So if you have a lot of money, you're talking about keeping yourself diverse. You're protecting some of your assets. You're leaving some of your assets in oh my goodness, here I am, a financial person and I can't remember, a variable. um which means that you're going up and down with the market. And I think that's a strategy that some people definitely can use, but it's all about where you are. But there is never an age that you can't be talking about this. And I say this because I used a living benefits term policy for 10 years to protect a 75-year-old person,
Wow.
which means that that living benefits is now going to cover so that if they get sick, if something happens, hospice, if you need to go into assisted living for a certain time, rehabilitation, you can't, it's affecting the money you have in retirement. That living benefits completely protects that retirement account because you're going to be using the money from that living benefits policy.
Got it.
It's a little bit expensive, not going to lie, because it's all age-based and health-based. But you have to look at, that's why short-term term, when you look at what disability policies are running, what long-term care, and here's a little tidbit, a lot of people don't realize this. If you don't get long-term care at 65, it's hell on wheels to try and get it.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest things I get from people is, I'm healthy, I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, you're healthy until you're not. And we all know in the community how quickly things change. My mom was 85 when she had her first breast cancer diagnosis. If I had been able to get her a policy even 5 years ago, it would have changed the picture. My dad got sick when he was 53, and he had good health insurance. He was a teacher, coach, but it didn't cover anything of the hospital. You hit those amounts and you're done. And my mom is living differently because of the expenses they had to go through. I say it very loud and proud. I'm on a mission. There is not only 6% of the American population know about living benefits. And I could spend the rest of my life talking about it and I'm still not going to make a dent. So I'm on a crusade because I want people who have worked so hard all their lives, part of their lives, it doesn't matter. Everything that you have created, that you have built, that you've worked hard for, I need you to keep that. I need you to be, I won't feel good knowing that somebody lost money. I talk about, it's a very recent story. Within our community, we had one of our small business owners who was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer. And if I had just talked to them, if I had sat down with them, made them sit down with me, I could have spared the financial duress that they immediately went under. And I swear that I'm not going to let that happen again.
Even after diagnosis?
After diagnosis, I couldn't have done anything.
Okay.
But that's why it's important that when people say, I'm healthy, I'm fine, that's the time you should be doing it. You can't, people tell me I can't afford to have it. And I always will look people straight in the eye and say, you can't afford not to have this.
Right.
I've seen businesses close. I've seen people's life savings wiped out. And it breaks my heart. And it's just not happening. Not on my watch.
I know I'm definitely benefiting from it now because Becky and Jana have been meeting with Charlie and I, and here we, thought we had really great coverage, and we do in many, many
Yes.
ways. We have our long-term care, and we have investments, and yada yada. I did not know about living benefits, and so when they made me aware of it, I was like, oh, we need this.
Yeah.
So we're kind of working on it still. We haven't solidified it, but I want to be educated before I really make the final decision.
Well, and it's helping you with your relationship with your financial advisor too,
Right.
because he's done such a great job for you. I mean,
Yes.
I can't speak highly enough about it, but you know a little bit more. So now you're able to ask questions where a couple of months ago you were just going to
In the
keep
dark. I
blind
had
with
no
them.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know what to ask. I mean, I wouldn't have known to ask for this.
Yeah.
So another question I have, Becky, is once you start producing the podcast, where will people be able to find them?
So I'm going to be on every major platform, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. I'll have a YouTube channel. And I think there's another one too, but if I got on one platform, I'd be happy.
Wasn't
But
there Apple iTunes or
yes,
Spotify?
yeah,
I don't know them
Spotify is the
anymore.
big one. Yeah,
Yeah,
and YouTube too.
yeah.
Yeah, I will be recorded in person, but there will be a couple of platforms. It'll just be
Voice.
me.
Oh, you all by yourself.
All by myself.
Lovely.
So yeah, I can send you guys a link when I
Yeah.
do my launch and
Yes.
get it out to the membership. And I look forward to talking to the different members and really anybody who's thinking about joining the chamber. Um, the camaraderie is excellent, and I want to be part of that culture, and it's why I push this message.
Thank you,
So
Becky. Thank you.
Connie or
absolutely.
Aaron, do you both have any questions or thoughts? Okay.
I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this. I enjoy every conversation that I have with the Holistic
Yeah.
Chamber and you guys. So it's an honor to work with you for sure.
Thank you too, because
Thank
your
you.
passion and your love and your care it just comes right through.
Oh, well, thank you.
You
Thank
know?
you. That's my dad. He gave me that.
And I think people need that. I think people need to
Mhm.
feel that, you know?
Yes.
There'll be a little bit of Jersey tough love in it because I have to have hard conversations, you know. I mean, I sometimes I have to say it as direct as I can because I'm not doing anybody a service if I'm not being direct and I'm not being blunt. So
And the
I'm a
Jersey
Jersey
accent,
girl and this is what we do.
and the Jersey accent comes out too.
Yes, it does. Um,
Thank you so much, Becky. Thank you, Karen, Connie, and Aaron for
You
being
too,
here with
Katerina.
us. Yes,
thank
Thank
you.
you, ladies. And thank you, Becky. That was excellent.
Thank you. I
thank you.
appreciate that.
All right,
See you soon.
we'll talk soon. Take
All
care.
right. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.